Hi everyone, welcome to another one of Untitled webinars. My name is Timothy. Today we're going to go through a short and sweet webinar regarding mailbox scraping and rules that accommodate them. At the end of the video, I'll answer any questions that you post during so that you can have a look and assist if possible. Firstly, what we'll be doing is going to set up, system settings, mailbox scraping. As you can see, I've set up a few already. This is just for purposes that show it off quickly. Ideally, what you would like to do as a company is have multiple mailbox scrapers. As you can see here, I have used the same username just for purposes of filling them in, but the most important thing would be changing them accordingly. So as you can see, we have a support mailbox being support. The way this would be set up is as follows. You will obviously enter your mailbox title, being what it would be, your POP3 or IMAP URL, your port in relation to POP3 or IMAP, the username of that email and the password, the type, IMAP or POP3. Please do remember the difference between IMAP and POP3 when it comes to mailbox scrapers. IMAP being the most optimal to use, as IMAP saves to the server and multiple devices. POP3 meaning it's going to be a single saved email. This means if you have a support scraper that is on Untitled and you have a technical person that has the support mailbox open, depending on who opens up the email first, it will disappear on the other side. So, as I've said, IMAP would be the best to use in this scenario, but you are able to use POP3. If you do use POP3, ideally it would be to use POP3 solely for Untitled and not to have the mailbox open up anywhere else. In this scenario, SSL will be on, secure certificate, for the IMAP, and then delete after read. This won't take so much effect on IMAP as it downloads multiple places, the email, but being POP3, this would be a very sensitive setting to look at, as once the email's been scraped, it would be then deleted. Here you have the action when unmatched. There are 4 actions here. We will go through each one on a different email box setup. But for the purpose of support, you would go and select create a ticket with no customer assigned. What would happen then is, if a customer emails into support saying, hi, I have a problem with my router, the ticket will be created. If the customer is actually assigned correctly, in other words, it is a proper customer, their customer will be assigned to the ticket and they will have a fully created ticket to support with their name and everything in between. Obviously here you have the active button. This needs to be on for it to work, but if maintenance is going on or you have a problem with your mailbox scraper at that current time, it would be best to switch it off. Starting date would be similar. It would be pointless to have a starting date that does not fall in the date you are currently in, so they should always be set as previously from when you're starting. Then you have the mailbox type. There are 2 mailbox types, one being generate help desk tickets and one being generate sales leads. Generate help desk tickets, though, can be broken out into different aspects. One being, as I said, support. One being, for example, accounts, operational, info, debt, anything in between. Sales leads would work differently. Sales leads would then you would have a sales at whatever your company would be. Client will email in. This would normally be off a web page that you have developed or just purely a sales email. What would happen is when this gets emailed in to a mailbox that uses the mailbox type generate sales lead, a sales lead will be created with the information the customer provides. Back to the setup of this scraper though. As you can see, selecting help desk tickets provides you with a few additional drop downs. One being your help desk default department. As you can see here, you will be setting these up on a help desk different thing. We will not be addressing that currently, but for these purposes, being support, it would be added to support. You have your normal default help desk category. As you can see here, I only have 2 available, email support and test. Optimally, you would just have general support. From there, you could then assign the ticket differently to where it should be, if it's high side, router, internet connection and such. You can also assign a default help desk ticket user. You can leave this as no assignee, which is not an issue, but then you need to monitor and manage it very well so that you don't lose track of tickets. Best would be to assign it to your head support or head technician, and from there he can break out to the correct groups. With this, you can also set a ticket priority. Depending on which scraper it is, would it be normal support or high sites or operational, you can set a priority for the ticket creation. For example, the way this one is set up is critical. So if a client would email into support@dartital.com, being the support scraper, I would be notified of the ticket creation with the customer, and then it would be marked as critical. Before we do move on here, you have the exclude domains part here. For example, this can be used if you do not want internal mails sent to your own company to be made into tickets, which is fair enough. Also, if you are getting hammered by spam from someone other source, you can add the domain here as well, but we will look into that while as scraper rules. Onto a different mailbox, just as an example so we can see. Again here, for example, same things that I've put in, but now it's an operational mailbox, meaning it will work slightly differently depending on how you set it up. Once again, you can go and set it as however you want. Create ticket, we will stick with this for now, and operational, let's say it goes to accounts, it's an account inquiry, and we set a person to that account inquiry. This person will then be notified when a ticket comes to the, do note that I said these are all simple ones that I've used. This will then be operations@dartital.com, for example. We will get back to this in a few moments. From setup, system settings, we can head over to mailbox scraping rules. In here, you can set up multiple rules. These will affect the way emails are handled in multiple manners. So let us start with a simple and easy one. For example, here I've made this rule. Just waiting for the rule to load. Apologies for that. Seems Sunny is having a bit of issues opening up his rule over there. Let's reload quickly. There we go. Okay, so here I've added a mailbox rule. So here you go on the rule name. Note that this has no effect on the actual rule. It's for naming purposes, documentation purposes, and just keeping track if you're sitting with 400 or 500 rules. Excuse me. For this current rule, I've set up to match on email address, meaning whenever sunny@mail.com would email in to any scraper, doesn't matter if it's operational or support or anything, it would ignore the mail. Like I said, old client, maybe it's not a bit happy, maybe it's just random messages. You can then go and block these emails by ignoring them here. Moving on to a different rule, for example. So here we have a rule that says allow sale. The reason I say this is I will show you how we set up a different rule now as well. So here we have an email address, We Buy Cars, we all know those, .co.za, but you know, someone has a friend at We Buy Cars that every now and then sends you an internet lead. So what happens is, this rule, the way it's made up, would process the mail, but only if it comes from the email address, We Buy Cars, as you can see, match an email address, but also including the subject line, new sale customer. The reason I've made this one as this is so that I can show you the next process. So let's have a look, and we take this email, we go and we make a new rule. So we say, match on email address as that, and we would actually go and we could say ignore mail or delete mail. The reason I say this, anything that does come from We Buy Cars today will get deleted as such. Let's just go delete here. I cannot spell. There we go. But now you can see you've got two matching ones here, one being delete and one being process. But the process will only work if the actual subject line of the mail says new sales lead. This can be done if you are having multiple emails come into your company from a certain site, but every odd email is actually a valid email. You would then be able to allow those emails through. On to our next rule. Plain and simple rule this, block spam. So Seaboard Steel at csteel.org, we all have those email addresses that come in that says, you know, buy this, buy that. We are an international company, we do this, and in the end of the day, it's spam. Maybe we would not like it on our system. So plain and simple, you can go ahead, you can make the rule block spam. Ideally, you would name the rule more accurately to what that rule would be. I've just named it as block spam currently. You would not have to match on subject line in this scenario because you are attempting to block everything from the following email address. With that, delete mail, ignore mail would be your two best options. For the final one, we would have a look at a forwarding one. So here we have a rule called det. Plain and simple, matches on the email address, and the reason I've said never pays here is because you've got Bobby that Bobby never pays, plain and simple, but Bobby keeps emailing in. So what happens is he would email in, but you don't want his emails to end up in help desk or anywhere else and clutter things up. What would happen is you would forward this mail to det@Datatil. Let us go back to the mailbox scraping quickly. As you can see, here I have a det scraper. This being set up, for example, as I said, normally you give the mailbox title a very nice name, fill in your POP IMAP details, your port, your username and your password. Again, IMAP or POP, same story, but then you would handle this differently. You would go and you would forward this mail to an address below. The reason I say that, the email comes in, it applies to the rule that you've created, it goes to the correct scraper that you've linked it to. The scraper then forwards to Sandra, because, maybe you've got a Sandra that works in accounts and she handles your debt department, meaning that she would get this email. So in theory, it would ignore this, and this mail would go to Sandra personally as a debt mail. The reason for this is you do not want your help desk to get cluttered with tickets that are not necessary. Finally, after you've done your mailbox rules and your mailbox scraping, there is a third little feature which is lovely to use. If you head under Tools, and you go Messages, and look at that, you go Messages, you've got a mailbox processing log. Now I've already opened it up over here. What this does is, this shows, as it says, your mailbox processing log. It shows everything that's been processed, whether it's been ignored, whether it's been deleted, whether it's been skipped, so that you can keep track of, are your rules working correctly, are they not, and so forth. You can then see here, these two emails came in before I set up certain rules. With those mailboxes set it up correctly, they created a new ticket. Ticket number is there. No customer, unfortunately, because I have no customer linked to the email, but if the customer was linked correctly, it would appear there. Then the scraper was changed. And as you can see, this email, not being anything, forward unmatched mail. So it got forwarded. This will also show you if the mail was skipped, ignored. This would be your best thing to look at once you've set up scrapers and once you've set up mailbox rules to evaluate if your system is doing what you optimally want it to do. From here as well, this does show all processing, not just because of rules and such. So if you have an abundance of a certain email coming in, instead of trying to make it difficult and now go search for the email just populates, you can see you have 500 emails coming from this email address. You can simply from here go and set up a mailbox rule. And once again, you can go set it to blocking, for example, match on email address. Don't have to match because we know it's all spam, and we can go and we can ignore or delete the email, and there the rule goes. We head back to rules and we refresh. There the rule populates, and we have a brand new rule that is there. With the rules, when you don't want to have them in effect, you can go disable the mailbox scraping rule. If for some odd reason it's no longer in need, the client's changed email addresses and so, or just purely for testing purposes. And that's it. That's the way to do it. I would like to say that when setting up your scrapers, firstly, and then your rules, you do need to be careful with this. The reason I say that is because if you go ahead and you modify these settings and you, for example, select delete message by accident, mistakes do happen, you will be deleting every message that comes to your support user. Same with ignore. You will be ignoring them. So it's best when these get set up, take your time, set them up correctly, do a few tests, as I said as well with the rules, set a few up, test them, it's going to be there, you can test it, it's fine. And with this page, you're going to be able to see what your outcome is of what you've set up, and then everything is going to be A4away, perfect. So that's it. I'm going to wait a few minutes. If there's any questions, I will address them. I'll be right back.